Right, this is my first YouTube video. Basically what I'm going to be doing is doing reviews of albums and maybe films, and hopefully if I can make my laptop play ball, I'll be able to get some of my band's music up on here, but we'll see how that one goes. And today I'm going to be doing an album by Frank Zappa called Joe's Garage, which is one of my favourite albums. And it's the one album that can always make me laugh or smile or giggle to myself because it really tickles me. Zappa's choice of lyrics on this album is just superb, and it just never fails to put a smile on my face. It's a concept album, which I always think is quite brave because it's got to be good if it's a concept album, because it can be fairly pretentious to do a concept album, so now I think it's got to be good. And this one really is good. It's got a really good storyline. It's about the illegalisation of music, and it's kind of a reaction to the whole PMRC crap that went on in the 80s. There's a lot of censors wives trying to, censor rock music and rock lyrics. And I think it's actually in Iran, music was actually made illegal, or it was threatening to be made illegal. I think, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, the album's about that kind of whole theme, and it's told by the central scrutinizer, which is voiced by Zappa speaking into or whispering into a megaphone. And it's a presentation about Joe, who's a young lad who gets a few of his mates together, has a jam in his garage, and they form a band, start playing at bars and clubs and stuff, and they have a run-in with the police, who tell Joe to stick close to the church. And he gets a girlfriend who's a nice Catholic girl called Mary, who actually ditches him and then goes off with this big rock group, and basically shagging all the roadies just to go off with this group, go on tour with them. And Joe hears about this, he gets very upset, and so he gets seduced by this other girl called Lucille, who gives him a sexual disease. And sort of confused and scared, Joe goes off to this guy called L. Ron Hoover of the First Church of Appliantology, which is a play on L. Ron Hubbard, who founded Scientology, and which is just as ridiculous really as Appliantology, which is, quote from the album, the quote is, a latent appliantologist is someone who refuses to admit to him or herself that sexual gratification can only be achieved through the use of machines. Basically, people who like to have sex with kitchen appliances, and Joe has to learn German to seduce one of these appliances, and he goes to this club called The Closet, and he gets one called Cyborg, and he goes back to Cyborg's place and has a orgy with this thing, and this like human replica android thing, like give him a blowjob and everything. And that track absolutely slays me. The first time I heard that, I was laughing at it, and for a moment I didn't think I'd ever be able to stop laughing, because some of the phrases in that just sublime. And Joe actually destroys Cyborg in the end by doing a golden shower on her, which for unenlightened people is basically where you do a wee on them. And it shorts out her master circuit, and he gets arrested for damaging this machinery by the central scrutinizer, and gets put in this place where all the musical criminals are, like the executives and people much sort of bigger and more important than Joe. And so basically he gets gang raped, and he gets so disillusioned with life that he starts sort of imagining these guitar notes that would irritate his oppressors. And he gets out to find that music has been made illegal, and so just continues to imagine these guitar solos and these songs and eventually realises that they're only in his imagination and they're not real. And so he goes and just gets a job in a muffin factory, and that's the end of the album. So it's a good concept, I think. I really like the narrative of it. And the production of the album, I think, is great. I think some of the sounds that Zappa uses, I mean, he's well known for using odd sort of sounds, and this album's no different. And like some of the guitar sounds on it are just brilliant, like on the big sort of grandiose guitar cuts, like on the bus, and the imaginary guitar solos there. I think the sounds are brilliantly done. And it's actually a lot more approachable than most of Zappa's stuff, because Zappa's known for being sort of jazzy and avant-garde and kind of weird and psychedelic. But this album's kind of a lot more laid back, I think. It's a lot more approachable, and although it's still quite an attack on the listener, and sort of getting his point across with music, I still think it's very approachable. I mean, I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's a fan of Zappa, or just a fan of kind of music in general, really, because it's very hard to categorise. It doesn't really fit into any particular classification of music, I find. So if you like music, you like good music, and you like music that kind of carries a point to it, it's not just pointless sort of obscenity. It does sort of carry a very important message about censorship and, you know, freedom of expression and stuff. So I can highly recommend this album because it's a very, very good album musically, and from a kind of sort of standpoint of freedom, it's a very sort of important landmark, I think, in the history of music.